Hello students, and welcome to My First Story in Premiere Pro tutorial. Let's jump in. Start by creating a new project. Name the project. I recommend your last name and the title of the project. This one is called First Story. Select Create. Premiere Pro will open. Once here, make sure that you're in the Effects workspace by going to Window, Workspaces, and Effects. You're ready to get started and import some content. This box down here in the bottom left is where your library of content can be imported and where you can access it. Find your folder, the one with the photos that you're going to use for your project. I keep mine on a folder in my desktop. Select all your photos and import them into the project. Now that they're here in your library, when they're selected, you can drag and drop them onto your timeline. Premiere Pro automatically creates a sequence based on the size of the photos that you've dropped in. In order to make sure that you're working on a video that is going to be the right size for publication, let's change the size of the video sequence. Go up to Sequence and select Sequence Settings. You'll see here the frame size. 1920 by 1369 is not what we want. You want it to be 1920 by 1080. No matter what the numbers are here, make sure that you type 1920 by 1080 so that you get the right size video. This is the standard for YouTube and other online platforms. Select OK to delete all previews for this sequence. Now you have a properly sized video that you're working with on your timeline. A timeline is just the term for the workspace area in your sequence. This sequence was named according to the first file I dropped in there, so I'm going to rename this sequence. If you go into your library of content, you'll notice this little icon. That is a sequence icon as opposed to these icons, which are image icons. This is your sequence, so you can right-click it, select, rename. I'm going to call this A Day at the Zoo. That's what my story is about. You can also organize your files by creating a new bin. Notice how I expanded the window to bring up more options at the bottom of the screen. You may expand your window until you see this little folder button and select New Bin. You can also right-click in the area to select New Bin. Either is fine. Create a new bin and name it according to your media type. I'm naming this one Photos. Select all your photos. You can hold Shift to select everything from the selection down. Drag and drop them into your bin. Now all my photos are organized in a folder. This is going to matter as we drop more and more content into the project. Now that all my photos are organized, I'm going to start editing the ones that are in my sequence. Feel free to change the order of the sequence by moving up and down these areas. The sequence area has a playhead that moves you through the time and space. You'll notice these numbers up here and over here. This indicates how long your video is. Right now, this video of 10 photos is 54 seconds. Actually, 11 photos, 55 seconds. Something like that. This sequence has 11 photos, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and it's 54 seconds long. I'm going to shorten the length over time, but before I do that, I'm going to make sure that all my photos are scaled so that there's no black space showing. That's okay because there's a vignette. If you have a photo that isn't scaled properly and looks something like this, make sure you select it, put your playhead over it, and use the scale option over here to adjust. You may also adjust the position and the rotation. Don't worry about the watch clock indicators yet. We'll get to that later. Once you have all your images in the order that you want, you're ready to add a music track. Just like we did for the photos, find your folder. I have a folder for music. Feel free to choose a few different musical options so you can see and feel how they match up with your photos in your sequence. You can bring your music into your project. You'll see down here there are A's. A stands for audio, and these A1, A2, A3 represent different audio lines. Just like up here, you have different video lines. Drop all your music into your timeline. If you select multiple ones at once, it'll put them on the same line, but feel free to move them all onto this same part of the sequence. When you're playing it back, you'll notice that music tends to be very loud. Make sure to mute, using these M buttons, the tracks that you're not trying to listen to. In this case, I just want to see how it sounds to listen to my first track with my clips. Let's try another track. Now I'm going to listen to the last track. I think this is the track that I like for this project. I'm going to delete the other tracks and unmute them so that I can simplify my workspace. You can also remember to create a new bin for your music and drop your music tracks into the music bin. Now you have it organized, just like your photos. Go back to your project, and now that you have music in place, you can start animating your photos. The fun part here and the key is to make sure that you're animating them and putting the length at times that the music cuts. You can do this two ways. You can listen to the music. I hear the music bounce right there as if it's revealing something, so that's where I want to make my cut. I'm going to drag my clip to reduce the length and then right-click to delete that ripple, and it automatically moved everything down for me. So now when I watch it with the music, this clip should cut where the music cuts. This part where the music changes again, I can hear it and see it, is where I want my next cut to go. I'm going to drag the playhead there, and again, adjust the length of the clip, move my other clip down. That time I just moved it manually instead of ripple deleting, which leaves space. I'm not going to worry about that for now. I'm going to keep cutting. That's where I want to cut again, so I'm going to reduce the length and move it over. You can watch and see how dynamic it's starting to feel simply because I'm cutting and putting the length on spaces where the music has a moment. Go ahead and do this for all of your clips. You don't have to shorten the length if you don't want to. I'm just doing that because I like to keep things short and punchy. I'm leaving some of these long because I'm going to apply more complex animations later. Alright, now that you have all your sequence in place, all of the clips in your sequence in place at the length that you want them to the music, we're going to add some animations. Start with your first clip. An animation means that you're going to move it. So to create movement, we're going to use what are called keyframes. That's what this little clock is for. You want to be able to see a little bit of space here, so if you need to, make space by dragging the window. You can also drag the left side of the window. In order to animate it, we're going to start at this position and choose position and scale watches so that they turn blue. This creates a keyframe, as you see here. The keyframe is what indicates at this point in time, I would like the image to be this position and this scale. You can then move your playhead to the end of the clip and choose a different scale and position. Once you do this, Premiere Pro will automatically animate it. Pull the playhead back to the front clip to watch. Pretty cool, right? So now that we have motion, thanks to these keyframes, we're going to try some different cuts. With keyframes like this, if I were to select and move them, it's going to happen faster and then stop. Because remember, the keyframe indicates this is the size I want it to be at this point in time. So if you move the keyframe into a different time, it's also going to move the image according to that time. So you'll see when I play this, it'll animate from here to here, but from here to here, it no longer has animation. I don't mind how that looks, so I'm going to leave it. For the peacock, I'd like to try a punch-in where the music stops. So check this out. You hear that pew pew? That's where I want to punch in. So what I'm going to do is zoom in a little bit, let it play. The punch-in happens here where this music peaks. So I'm going to choose the C button and it'll change it to look like a blade. I use that blade to cut my video clip. So now even though it's still the peacock, it's in separate clips. The reason I do that is because I'm going to resize this clip a little bit, and then I'm going to resize it again on the second punch. I'm looking for the moment where the punch happens again. I watch where the playhead goes over the music to do this. I believe it happens here, so let's give it a shot. Again, I'm going to use my blade to cut the clip here. Then I change back to my selection tool using the V button. You can also use this selection tool button over here and this razor tool button over here to go from your blade to your selection tool. I select the next clip that I want to punch into and again adjust the scale, and this time the rotation to make it a little dynamic. Let's see how this looks. Looking pretty good, right? It's important to remember to periodically save your project so that if it quits, you have saved your progress. You can do this using the Windows S key or by going to File, Save. If you choose Save As, it'll give you the option to either rename it or change the location of where it exists. In this case, I want it to live on the desktop in my folder. So I'm going to make sure to choose Desktop and my First Story folder. And this is where I'm going to save my project named Mendoza First Story. Save. Now when I go to my desktop folder, I see my project in there.